Everyone kindly settle down fast. Our guests are arriving in a few minutes. I request everyone to kindly rise as our guests have arrived. Everyone kindly rise. Please settle down. We are ready to begin the session. The world is a canvas, and we are its artists. Today, we gather as visionaries, tasked with painting a future of hope, justice, and prosperity. Each of us holds a brush, and every idea is a stroke of potential. Let our discussions be strokes of brilliance that craft a masterpiece of inspiration, resilience, and change. A very good afternoon to the solemn gathering. I, Khushali Sharma,
and I, Eshita Goswami, take the opportunity to welcome you all to the Fest Synergy 2023, revitalizing the rural economy, being organized by the Economic Society of St. Xavier's College, Jaipur. The fest marks its beginning with the Synergy Conclave 2023 on the theme Viksit Bharat at 2047.
The conclave is being witnessed by Professor Father S. Xavier S.J., Principal, Reverend Father Amal Das, Dean, Research and Human Resource, our illustrious speakers for the day, Mr. Harish Damodaran, Journalist, The Indian Express, Dr. Ritika Khera, Professor, IIT Delhi, and Dr. Vinish Kumar Kathuria, Director, IDS Jaipur, the moderator of the conclave, Mr. Ajit Sharma, Head of the Economics Department, Mrs. Purvi Midatwal, teacher coordinators, respected faculty members, and the young minds. We would like to inform everyone that due to unavoidable circumstances, Mr. Harish Damodaran couldn't join us in person. But we are grateful we have the presence of Sir via an online meeting platform.
At the very outset, we would like to have the presence of all the dignitaries to light the auspicious lamp and formally inaugurate the conclave. With the light of the ceremonial lamp, we hope that the light of our intellect guides our way through the darkness and aids us to a higher purpose. Now, I request Father Principal to present Professor Dr. Ritika Khera with a green sapling and a small token of our appreciation. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Ma'am. May we have a huge round of applause?
I would now like to invite Reverend Father Amal Das to present the green sapling and a small token of our appreciation to Dr. Vinesh Kumar Kathuria. May we have a huge round of applause? Thank you, Father.
Now I request Head of Department, Mrs. Purvi Medatwal, to present the green sapling and a small token of our appreciation to Mr. Ajit Sharma. Maybe have a huge round of applause. Thank you, ma'am.
Now, may I invite on stage Professor Father S. Xavier S.J., Principal, to deliver a welcome speech.
Respected Father Amal, the Acting Vice Principal and the Dean of Research, Head of the Department, Purvi Ma'am, and our speakers for the day to enlighten us on this Viksit Bharat at 2047, Professor Ritika, Professor Vinesh, Mr. Harish Damodaran, who is online with us, and Mr. Ajit Sharma, our own Zavarian, who have dedicated their time with the invitation from the Department of Economics. Viksit Bharat, the developed India that your generation want to witness, is what they are going to enlighten today, speak to us today. It will not mere political agenda or statement be as a visionary statement merely, but it should be tangible element for your generation. That is the only objective with which the Department of Economics has brought this topic forward. Viksit Bharat, in the term of Jesus Christ, would have been what he addressed as the kingdom of God. Kingdom of God where compassion exists, kindness exists, harmony exists. The developed India that we talk in terms of economic growth, infrastructural development, education, healthcare, technology and innovation, social welfare, environmental sustainability, global influence, cultural heritage or social harmony, all involve a Viksit Bharat in our hearts. If you want a developed India where you cannot extend your hand towards the needy, if you want a developed India where you cannot accept the other as your neighbor, what is that vision that we are fighting for? What would be our vision for this developed India? What would be the action plans that we build up to see as a reality in our lifetime? That's the objective with which we have gathered today, and I am very honored to have the speakers who have dedicated their time to be with us, including Mr. Damodaran, who is online with us. He is unwell, but yet, due to his commitment to speak to us, he is there to witness this event. Welcome to St. Xavier's Jaipur. And to you, my beloved students, these are all rare opportunities that you will get in any other institution, where an institution will take step to think ahead and speak about 50 years from now. You have that opportunity now. And being the first batch under NEP, you have a program called Knowledge Enhancement Course and also Value Added Course. When I said I will give you 5 attendance for your class today, you are going beyond the classrooms of 4 walls where you learn something new. And this topic may not be in your syllabus, but you are equipping yourself to face a developed India, a Viksit Bharat. Welcome to you all for making this time available for you to learn something new in our life. Thank you one and all, honorary guests here. Feel at home, enlighten our students, and it will be our joy to welcome you to St. Xavier's College, Jaipur. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Father, for such an inspirational speech.
Synergy is a celebration of our thirst for knowledge, a manifestation of our dedication to learning, and a platform for the exchange of ideas. It is not just an event, it has witnessed our unyielding passion for discovery, innovation, and excellence since its genesis 12 years ago.
As we embark on this thrilling journey, remember that an academic fest is not just about textbooks and lectures. It's an amalgam of ideas and aspirations. It's where we challenge the known, seek the unknown, and revel in the joy of intellectual exploration. Our fest is a forum where the boundaries of disciplines blur, where diversity of thought reigns, and innovation thrives. No matter who you are, there's something for everybody at Synergy.
I would like to request the technical team to play the glimpses of Synergy Fest over the years. But before we do, I would like to thank all of our sponsors. Thank you to the team.
We are proud that after having conducted the fest for the past 3 years online, we are here in 2023 with fervor, celebrating the festival offline. This year, the festival commenced with an industrial visit. The students were taken to the Bagru handblock printing site. This visit was intended to make the students cognizant of the life of the workers who are the masterminds behind this beautiful traditional fabric art of Rajasthan.
It is the 9th edition of Synergy Conclave. The Synergy Conclave have served as a crucible of ideas where thought leaders have come to incite and create a positive change in our minds. Synergy Conclave was conceptualized in an attempt to engage and orient the youth in a meaningful dialogue on issues that matter the most to the nation in the form of a panel discussion. The inception of the conclave was laid down in 2015 with the impeccable reciprocation of the students and the media. Previous conclaves have successfully touched on significant topics like Indian economy by 2030, no to single-use plastic, a call for youth, economics versus politics, and many more.
The theme of this year's conclave, Viksit Bharat at 2047, will shape our conversations and spark our creativity on our country's journey ahead. Welcome to the vision of Viksit Bharat, where progress and development are not mere dreams but a collective commitment. In this journey, we unite for a brighter future where innovation meets sustainability and where every citizen becomes an architect of positive change, making India a beacon of growth, harmony, and prosperity by the year 2047.
Our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has been the pioneer in making us realize that it should be our resolve that when the tricolor is hoisted in 2047, it is of a developed India, and that the dream of a Viksit Bharat will come to fruition only when every state, every district, and every village of the country would be in accordance with the future needs.
We are proud to say that this conclave is vibrant with the presence of notable people, each being a luminary in their own light. We would like to invite the eminent Mr. Ajit Sharma as the moderator for a foresight discussion on building India's highway to the future. May we have a huge round of applause.
Mr. Ajit Sharma is currently a TEDx ambassador and a speaker coach at TED Talks India. Additionally, he is a principal consultant at the Asian Development Bank. Sir has devoted more than 10 years to collaborating with the global TEDx community. In these past 10 years, he has mentored a wide range of individuals, including CEOs, technology leaders, actors, authors, etc., both in India as well as abroad. Besides all these achievements, we are proud that he is an alumnus of St. Xavier's School, Jaipur.
I would like to inform that we will be engaging the audience via the Mentimeter platform for conducting live polls during the conclave. Now, may I request moderator Mr. Ajit Sharma to begin with the conclave. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Father personally, the Department of Economics, all the teachers, all the students who have put in so much of effort to put up this great conversation today. For me, it's always homecoming when I come to Xavier's School, Xavier's College. Many years ago, I was also sitting in the audience and we were very keen to listen to some great conversations. At that point, we didn't realize how those conversations would shape our thinking, would shape our personalities. And in that sense, what Father said today is really true, that conversations like these are going to be very historic. We are at the start of a very big mission for the next 25 years. Many of you in the next few years will take up different professions, start your businesses, get into academics, become policymakers, become economists. And when you look back 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, you will recall these conversations where we have some really eminent personalities, people who are so learned, people who have dedicated so many years understanding economy in different sectors. So in a sense, I'm grateful that this conversation is happening today. We wanted to keep this conversation also very interesting so that, while you're listening to the speakers, you're listening to their perspectives and their opinions, their vision. How could we get to that point where we can call ourselves a Viksit Bharat? And like the host mentioned, we also have this Mentimeter application where we'll be sharing some questions. You are free to answer those questions. It's a way for us to also get a mood of the room, get a sense of what people think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you aware of it? All of those things. And I want to personally thank Dr. Ritika, Dr. Vinish, and Harsh sir, who could not join us today in person, but we are grateful that his presence is here. Without any further ado, before I invite speakers on the stage, I also want to take this moment to say that this is a great time for us to be in India. In the last few years, we are listening to more and more such conversations where people from different walks of life, different backgrounds are optimistic. Even their criticism about how things are happening is becoming more constructive. They're becoming more vocal. And all of us in our day-to-day conversations are now thinking more proactively about how India could become a developed nation. We have a great advantage. The premise of a Viksit Bharat is based on this concept, which was introduced by Professor R.P. Gupta, who's a very known policymaker, in his book, where he speaks about the demographic advantage that we have, which is a majority population in the country is right now under 30 years. And in the next 25 years, when it peaks by 2047, which is also coinciding with our 100th year of independence, we have tremendous opportunities to not just grow economically, but also become a society where everybody has equal opportunities. The divide between the rich and poor is as less as possible. Everybody has access to good quality life. And all of those things can happen when we have discussions like these, which will help us to build more insights, think of actions that we can take in the next few years, bring some systemic changes, very fundamental changes. And for those things to happen, for those things to materialize, we need to listen and we need to get perspectives from the experts. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome, and please join me wholeheartedly, in welcoming our first speaker, Dr. Ritika, on stage. Dr. Ritika Khera is currently serving as a professor of economics at IIT Delhi, and she's a renowned expert in social policy research in India. She focuses her work on healthcare, education, poverty, and the impact of digital advancements on welfare. She actively participates in field activities, including surveys and social audits, and she's made substantial contributions to initiatives like Narega and PDS. And before joining us for this conversation, I was listening to her that for the last 1 month, she has been constantly traveling to different parts of India, to UP, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Delhi, and that truly shows the depth of expertise and her passion towards this work. Dr. Ritika, thank you so much for joining us. I would also like you to please welcome Dr. Vinish Kumar Katuria. Dr. Vinish is the Director for Institute of Development Studies, IDS, in Jaipur, who's currently on leave from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, IIT Bombay. We are very privileged to have you, sir, join us for this conversation. He's an alumnus of NIT Kurukshetra and IGIDR, and Dr. Vinish has expertise in the field of macroeconomics, industrial environment, and energy economics. I'm very thrilled that he's joining us. He served as a member of Standing Committee on Economic Statistics, MOSPI, Government of India, from December 2019 to November 2022, which was very recent. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, Dr. Harish, if I may welcome you, and if Dr. Harish can see us, maybe all of us can give him a big wave and a big welcome. Mr. Harish Damodaran, my apologies, has been a journalist with over 3 decades of experience. He currently holds the position of National Rural Affairs and Agriculture Editor at the Indian Express. And his work focuses on the farm sector, macroeconomics, business, and social history. Among his authored books, the recent notable work is India's New Capitalist, Caste, Business, and Industry in a Modern Nation, Mr. Harish Damodaran, thank you so much for joining us. And if I may quickly also check if the audio is working and if you could get a hello from you. If I may request the organizers to unmute Mr. Harish's Zoom call. Oh, great. He can definitely see us and listen to us also. And as we progress into the conversation, I'm going to invite him also. Without wasting much of the time, what we are thinking of today is a very, very insightful conversation about what Viksit Bharat mission truly means. What is the current landscape? What are the challenges that we are currently facing? What are the solutions? What can we do today? What can we do a few years from now that can help us get there? And also build an imagination that if we were living in 2047, if all of you were a part of that Viksit Bharat, what would it be like? In between, we will also keep popping up some questions. Like the first question that we have for today is, if I can request the organizers to prompt that, what you have to do is you have to...
Am I audible? Yeah.
Mr. Harish, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We could hear you now, yes.
Ajit, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Am I audible?
I don't know if I'm pointing at the right camera.
I can hear you perfectly, no problem.
Great. So, like I mentioned, we'll have some questions in between just to get a sense of what everybody thinks and also help our speakers to really connect with all of you. We have a different opinion, you may have a different opinion, but that's what makes a conversation really interesting and valuable. Let's bring all perspectives on table. Let's learn and share with each other. So if we can, so the first question is very simple, and I'm sure the room is well versed with the idea, but do you know about Viksit Bharat mission? By the way, do you have the instructions with you on how to use this app? Yash, could you share? Okay, so all of you, please take a minute to take your phones out. It's a great opportunity because usually you're not allowed to use your phones. This time I'm asking you to use your phones. Go to this website called menti.com, M-E-N-T-I, menti.com. You will be requested to put in the user code. The user code is 2733. Can everybody go to menti.com? Are you able to go to? Oh, awesome. So 2106. So people have already started responding. Half the audience says, yes, we know about Viksit Bharat. Some of them feel no. This is a live poll, by the way. So we can see. You can also check with your neighbor, does he know or has he responded differently? So about 2/3, oh, this is, right. How long is the duration? 30 seconds, okay. All right, so we do see a little trend coming in, which is about 40%, about 40-45% people are not aware of the Viksit Bharat mission, which is valid because it's a very recent development. The Niti Aayog is yet to publish an official white paper with details, but there are some early publications and some early information out already. About 28% people feel yes, they know, and about 20 of them. So roughly half the room has an idea, knows a little bit about it. Half the room does not know about it, which makes the conversation even more relevant because this is going to happen right in front of us in the next few years. I would like to request Dr. Ritika, and the flow of the conversation is that we take the first few minutes for opening remarks from all the speakers, and really just get your perspective on what do you think of the Viksit Bharat mission. You know, this idea of having a long-term vision like this, and since it was mentioned also in the concept paper that historically our planning has been focused on shorter durations of 5 years, 10 years, and more developed economies like the US and China in the past have had these longer visions. What is your perspective? What is your take on such a long-term 25-year-old vision, long-term vision for the country to be developed? Where do we stand? Your first thoughts.
Do I have to use this? There is a mic, then maybe I'll use this. So if I have to hold a mic, it's fine. Okay, then since I'm holding a mic, I might as well sit. I thought there might be a fixed mic. Okay, so can I start with lots of caveats? Firstly, I want to thank Purvi and everyone else here for the invitation, because as I was telling everyone, my connection with Rajasthan is quite old, and I love coming back to Rajasthan. Even if it's only Jaipur, it's okay. The second thing I should say is that I went to a convent school, and I was a very good girl. I always, very disciplined and all that. But in my 30s and 40s, I've learned to not be a very good girl anymore. So on this, I was thinking about it in the context of the question that you're asking. I didn't know about Viksit Bharat mission. And I was thinking, if I had been asked this question, would I answer it honestly, just because you might feel a bit ashamed to admit that you haven't heard about it. So these numbers, lesson number 1, you should take with a pinch of salt. The other thing that you would want to know behind the results of the poll is how many students answered. Are the percentages coming from 3 responses or 30 responses or 300 responses? All of that will matter quite substantially in interpreting these results. But anyway, it's just a conversation starter. It's not a course in statistics. So for now, we can let it go. I don't know if answering the question requires you to download the app, or you can just answer online. Okay, fine. Then I won't give you my other lecture about how you should be careful before you download any app and not give permissions without reading the privacy statement. So coming to the question that you asked about what is Viksit Bharat, and as a development economist, we have a very particular understanding of what development means. So, if I talk to my family, where we don't have any development economists or economists at all, when I go home to Baroda, they might say, ye wala area bahut develop ho gaya hai. A particular locality is developing a lot. And for them, developed means new buildings are coming up, roads are being constructed, maybe flyovers, things like that. But that's not how development economists think about Viksit Bharat, right? When we, as development economists, when we talk about it, we are really relying on the conception of development as outlined by Amartya Sen. You've heard of Amartya Sen? Yeah? Is he alive or is he dead? He's alive, okay? There was a rumor recently that he had died. It was a fake Twitter handle that said, oh, he's no more, but he's alive. He's quite old. So Amartya Sen, who won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1998, some of his most important contributions to economics is to help economists understand that development, or even economics for that matter, is not just about growing the GDP. Okay, the gross domestic product. I'm guessing all of you are students of economics, so I don't have to spell out even the basic terms. That actually the GDP is only a means to achieving what you actually care for in life. Why do you want money? You want money so that you can Buy books, go watch films, buy clothes, fulfill your material needs, but also your intellectual and social needs. So we have to think about growth of GDP only as a means towards the end, and we mustn't forget the ends in and of themselves, which is a good life. I think Father also mentioned it, and you also mentioned it, that the quality of life should be good for everyone. And on a day-to-day basis, what is your quality of life affected by? You're all lucky enough to be graduate or postgraduate students, but about 30%, 20 to 30% of the Indian population is still not able to read and write. Right? So can you imagine a life where you were not able to read and write in any language? What would your life be like, and where would you go? This speaks to the point that you raised about the demographic dividend. Indeed, it is true that in India we have a very youthful population, and in many countries that is seen as a strength. We often tend to think of people as a burden, right? Population bomb, population explosion. We sometimes talk about population in those terms, but in many countries, people are seen as their strength. And indeed, we should also think of our people as our strength. This is what India has in abundance. But if those people are not able to read and write, you've seen these reports that come every year saying class 5 students, a large proportion of them, 20%, 30%, 50%, are not able to read a textbook meant for class 2 students. So even those who are getting classified as literate are actually, some of them are actually not able to read and write very well. So if you have a population that's not literate, not able to navigate this modern world, if you have a population that is ill all the time, look, Harish is fallen sick. What does it mean for our economy and our well-being? Both those things matter, right? It affects the economic growth of the country, whether you have an educated population and a healthy population, and it affects people, right? In the end, we want the GDP to grow because we want everyone to live a good life, right? So the ultimate goal is to be able to improve the quality of life of everyone. And in that sense, I think some of our priorities right now are misplaced. And actually some of them, going back to Nehru, it's fashionable now to find fault with Nehru, so let me find one fault with him, even though I appreciate him for many other, I do think he was a visionary in many ways. But I think in his time, there was a problem that India did not pay enough attention to primary education, to basic education. They did not put enough money aside for healthcare. So those two neglects in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they have continued to this day. Especially in healthcare, we are still much lower than the rest of the world. In countries like France, Germany, UK, 10% of the GDP is spent by the state on providing healthcare to its people. In India, by comparison, we are spending 1% of GDP only on provision of healthcare. This is just to give you a benchmark. So what is a developed country? A developed country is one where the state is heavily invested in provision of education and health to its population. And that is something every once in a while, over the past 60, 70 years I'm talking now, there's been a flicker where there is some interest in investing in these two things. But I think now we are losing that flicker, and I think that is something that we need to think about quite a bit. The other thing in relation to the GDP, when we talk about it, I was at a gathering of chartered accountants. They were having an annual meeting in Calcutta, and I don't know why they invited me, but I went. I was so curious. And I made this really simple point, but it really resonated with them, because in that panel discussion, they were talking about, what do you think about this vision of a 3 trillion economy, 27 trillion economy? I said, it doesn't really matter. If I have all of those 3 trillion or 27 trillion rupees or dollars, would you all be happy? You won't, right? I'm giving you a very extreme case to drive home the point that unless the fruits of the overall growth are shared in a fair manner, it doesn't really mean anything, right? So you may become a 100 trillion or a $700 trillion economy, but if only 1% of the population controls all of it and the others are still, as they say, bhuke nange ghoom rahe hain, they don't have a decent life, they don't have shelter, they don't have a space to bathe with dignity, they can't go to the toilet with dignity. Those simple things matter quite a lot. So in fact, the questions I've asked are related to some of these questions. So I think we have to keep our focus on per capita, on people, and whether their lives are improving. Maybe I'll make two other quick points because I'm not sure, it's hard to keep track of time as you talk. These two, one of them pertains to, but I think it's important, it pertains to a ride from IDS to St. Xavier's. And we got onto a flyover, and so I said, oh God, they never stop making flyovers and it doesn't make a difference to the traffic on the road. And then the person who was driving us, he said, no ma'am, actually it has made a difference. But the fact is that at least in many other cities, traffic jams remain, right? And what is the cause of the traffic jam? Can anyone tell me what causes traffic jams? Yeah? Exactly. So it's the vehicles, personal vehicles that cause traffic jams. If you really want to do something about congestion on the roads, then what you need to do is provide much better public transport, right? So you do, and so there's that very personal interest in provision of providing public transport, which is you'll be moving much faster. But there's another very important reason now to think about public transport, and that clearly is the environment, right? As I was asking earlier, what is it that affects your life on a day-to-day basis? Yesterday, Delhi was very polluted, and somehow when I got off at Jaipur also, I got a really bad, my eyes were itching and I had a cold as a result. I was sneezing, etc. That's why my eyes are watering even today. And it's basically pollution I don't know how bad things are here. Maybe it's just leftover from yesterday. So there are many reasons for us to think about our life choices. We talk about go green and we still use plastic bottles all the time. I've been to seminars where they're talking about climate change and they're, providing plastic bottles. And if you ask, then they think, oh God, she's really crazy. Why is she insisting on tap water? I mean, bottle water from a purifier, etc., rather than a bottle. So I think one of the things we have to do is to be much more self-aware of our life choices in terms of, what are your aspirations? A lot of my cohort, for instance, when we were young, I'm still young, but when we were younger, then was to, they want big cars and they want bigger cars. At that time there was only those 2 or 3, right? Maruti and Ambassador and Fiat. And so for our generation, the proliferation of the car choices is a thing. Abhi Mercedes, abhi BMW, abhi, whatever it is. And the same people talk about climate change and being, we have to do something about the environment, but they will not get out of their SUV even for a short distance. So I think both in terms of urban planning and urban living, we need to be much more mindful. Again, on that road journey, he said, yahan pe Sindhi camp ban raha hai. Now, actually, the buses are reducing to the extent that buses take 20, 30 people in them, they're reducing traffic, right? So the vehicles whose entry should be restricted into the city is the cars, because they are the ones who, 1 or 2 people sit in a car and they congest traffic. But actually it's the entry of the buses that is they're being made to use the bypass. So in terms of urban planning, these are not things that I work on, neither urban planning nor climate and environmental issues. I do think that people need to be a bit more honest and more self-aware of the choices that they make going forward, right. Because those are very pressing concerns in terms of Viksit or a better life for a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. And I recall this, really great anecdote where they mentioned that the sign of a country really being developed is when rich people also prefer to take the public transport versus rich people preferring to take, their own private cars and polluting an environment and everything. Great insights on what you think that's happening in the urban space. And I think there's a great connect now developing, as Dr. Ritika mentioned, and as I go to Mr. Harsh and Dr. Vinish also. If I may request Mr. Harish to be on screen. So Mr. Harish, he has worked in the rural development space for so many years. He really has the most honest, hard-hitting insights from what is happening in the rural India, where still a predominant population lives, which is still, a major part of our economy is contributed through agriculture. There are shifts that are happening, there are changes that are taking place. Mr. Harish, if I may request some of your opening remarks on what your idea of a Viksit Bharat is and how the rural economy or how rural India could play a big role, And if I may also request for us to dim down the lights so that we could see Mr. Harish clearly. Mr. Harish, can you hear me? So some of these technical challenges we are quite used to now in the last 3 years. Let's give him some time, but if meanwhile, if Dr. Vinish feels comfortable, if I may move, in the interest of time, and request some of your opening remarks, and maybe as soon as Mr. Harish joins in, then we could have like a conversation going on. Sure, please.
So good morning, everyone. Anything before lunch is morning for me. So I would like to thank the father, then Purvi.
I hope I am audible, right? I hope I am audible. Yeah. I am audible, I hope. Can you hear me?
Mr. Harish, please allow me to message you the status of the...
My voice is coming with a lag, right?
There is some lag, definitely, but Yash, if I may request you to fix and maybe privately message him, and then we'll, as soon as...
I can hear you perfectly. I can hear you.
Okay. Sir, may we request you to kindly wait for 5 more minutes?
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. I'm glad, sir. But may I request just 5 minutes of your time, as we request Dr. Vinish to give his opening remarks, and then we would love to hear what you have to say. We apologize for this technical lag, but that shouldn't stop our spirit in conversation. So, if I may, I think so, sir. I mean, it's a tough choice, but we'll have to go with one of the two.
Well, yeah. So thank you, St. Xavier's, for inviting me here. Now, I also felt very happy that I'm also part of the majority who didn't know what Viksit Bharat is. But now I know what Viksit Bharat is. Now, I have been asked to speak on environmental and development challenges for Viksit Bharat. I was thinking a little bit about this, whether it is environmental and development challenge for Viksit Bharat or on the path to Viksit Bharat. So these two are two different things. That is one thing. Now, I was thinking, what is Viksit? So Viksit is developed. But there are two questions which immediately came to my mind. Is the definition of Viksit static or dynamic? That is first question. And the second is there only one definition? Now, those who are, most of you will be from economics stream, so you will be knowing there is no single definition. And whenever we talk about developed or Viksit, we always think of per capita income. What is our per capita income? But that is not a definition. That is a classification as given by World Bank. And that classification itself has changed over a period of, say, 25 years. If you see that, earlier it used to be $9,000 per capita income, GNI, they said gross national income per capita in 20 years back. Now it is 13,000, is 13,800 is the per capita income. So which is a moving target. Now, can we think of something after 25 years when the target itself is a moving? So that is one thing which bothered me. Can we think of a target of 47 when we know that the target itself is not fixed? Now, this is just a classification, and there are many countries who we know that they are developed, middle income, but what Ritika has mentioned, when you look into other broader aspects of development, they all are lacking. Most of the Middle East countries, they are either middle income or they are high income countries. But when you look into, do they have education, sufficient education? Do they spend too much on health? One aspect which she has missed, I thought that is also very important. Do they have gender development? Then you will find that most of these countries will fall flat. So that is one thing. So which definition we are picking, that is very important. So that's why the moment you think of definition, then you have to move beyond this classification, and you have to look into what UNDP in 1998, if I remember, or in 90s came up with HDI. So Human Development Index is the one which is more encompassing, which includes much broader, which all the three dimensions, health, education, and income. And many countries who are very rich, their HDI is very poor. If you look at India's performance in last 25 years, our rank has come down. It is not that we have not improved, but the improvement by other countries is much more. So I have some number which I would like to share with you. So if you look into India's rank at 25 years back, because now we are looking 25 years ahead. So our rank was basically, now it is 132, and it was 119 in 2010. So which was, and it was in 1999, it was 110. So our rank is, we are slipping further and further in that. So then we have to think, it is not only income, 3 trillion, 5 trillion, 10 trillion will matter little bit because it will not trickle down easily. You have to think much broader. That is one aspect. And second, any growth, world over you can see that, growth leads to inequality. So there is no country in the world which has grown without leading to inequality. But do we have safety nets for the people? Because we know that, and in the again, data shows that in the last 20 years, inequality has grown drastically. So now 1% of the population in India now owns 22% of the income. So which is a large number in that sense. But it opens, again, when you have the problem, then only, first you have to recognize the problem. And when you recognize the problem, then only you can think of solutions. Now, coming back to the first thing, we want to become a developed country. And if you think that the definition of a development or developed country is a static, so assuming that 13,800 is the per capita income which we aspire in 2047, which means that you have to grow at the rate of 8%. So that brings another challenge. In last 25 years, when our economy was small, our base was much smaller. We have grown at the rate of 7.5%. Now our base has grown drastically, and we want to grow at the rate of 8%. Is it really feasible or not? So that is another challenge. And the third thing which is important is that now any such transition will lead to moving people. If you want to grow at the rate of 8%, if you want to become a developed country, then we have to move from agriculture to manufacturing, which the world over has done like that, agriculture to manufacturing, and eventually to services. Now, are our institutions ready to absorb 45% of the population, which is still working in agriculture, but contributing to only 20% of the GDP? On the other hand, 50%, 54% we are getting from services, and only 30% population is working in services sector. Now, are we having enough institutions which can absorb surplus labor from agriculture to manufacturing and eventually to services? This is a challenge, according to me. So likewise, environment is another challenge. I will come to that while we have a brief discussion during that time. I'll stop here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this is so insightful listening to both of you that one, when we speak about the idea of a developed India, Viksit Bharat, we cannot have a myopic vision which only is about numbers, only about this trillion economy, but much, much wider. So it's a very varied and a very wide scope. And for us to be truly able to call ourselves Viksit or developed, there are multiple tangents. I'm going to make another attempt to request if Mr. Harish Damodaran can join us online. If not, then, like I said, we continue the conversation. Let's see if Mr. Harish can join us. While we try that, we can also maybe pop up the next question. Quickly, please, go back to your devices, go to menti.com. The room code is, it's still the same, 2733-2106. The question is, in your opinion, which sector is crucial for India to become a developed nation by 2047? In your opinion, which sector is crucial? So we'll take about 30-40 seconds. Please be as quick. And I encourage all of you to respond so that, like Dr. Ritika mentioned, it's not a small sample, but a larger sample that helps us understand which sector, in your opinion, is most crucial. So as soon as this poll is over, we'll invite Mr. Harish also. And Mr. Harish, I don't know if you can see the screen, but just let me share with you, we are running this live poll where we are sharing these questions with the live audience. They are giving responses as we speak. The question was, in their opinion, which sector is crucial for India to become a developed nation by 2047? The choices were education and health, agriculture and rural development, urbanization and industrial development. And they have to give a score. So far, it seems education and health seems to be most important, followed by agriculture, rural development, and urbanization almost equally. We have another 25 seconds to respond. We seem to be on that same track like a few seconds ago. Education and health seems to be the most important. And I would assume also, because all of you are young students, you're looking for opportunities, and you feel that a greater education infrastructure, more opportunities would obviously help you be really instrumental in that vision that we are thinking of. Another few seconds. So about 96, 95 people have responded, which is, I think, a fair enough sample size, given that we have about 150, 200 people in this room. Great. If the Zoom call is working well, then Mr. Harish, if I may request you to share your opening remarks, and I'll quickly share the responses also with you. Most people feel education and health is most important, followed by agriculture, rural development, and urbanization, industrial development equally. If you can hear us, Mr. Harish, and if we can request you to unmute, and we would love to hear your opening remarks.
Okay. Shall I speak now?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, so I'm just speaking now. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hope I'm audible. Apologies, especially to Madam Purvi Medatwal and Dr. Vinish Katuria, because this was a commitment I had to fulfill, but I couldn't. I mean, this is what they call as force majeure, I mean, things beyond my control, act of God, So I had to default in physical appearance to come. But just like Ritika, I don't know what exactly is this Viksit Bharat mission. I mean, despite the fact that Professor Ramesh Chand is a good friend of mine, he never told me about such a mission. So probably it's something still in the works, you know. So, but let me come to some of the points which I wanted to highlight. You know, of course, Gandhiji always used to say that India resides in its villages. Okay, and we have Chaudhry Charan Singh, who went one step ahead. He said that the path to India's prosperity passes through its villages. So he was very clear that without Viksit Bharat, Bharat means the villages. They can be no there can be no Viksit Desh. That is, there can be no a developed country without the villages. Without the villages doing well. I want to mention a small incident. Again, which relates to Rajasthan. I was about a couple of weeks back. I had taken my daughter and my wife. We were going from Jodhpur to Jaisalmer by road. Then there was this village called Dechu, and which is, I think, about something like 50 kilometers from Pokhran, where you had those nuclear tests and all. So in this Dechu village, suddenly we came across one farmer. We saw a lot of orchards of anar. I think they basically pomegranate. And I think they call it dadam. And so then we met this farmer. Okay, this farmer, he had about 50 acres of land. And out of that 50 acres, he was growing in 32 acres, something like that. He was growing pomegranates. It was in the middle of a desert. I mean, around the field, we could only see sand dunes and the kind of a thing. And here, this man was growing, pomegranates, and my daughter had a very nice time, going into the fields, even plucking a few. Of course, the anar is ready only from around December. So then we got, I started chatting with the farmer. So this farmer, he told me that he used to grow just a single. I mean, agriculture for him was just a single crop season, and it was entirely upar wale ke bharose. And he would grow during the kharif season. That is, depending on how the monsoon rains were, So he would grow, say, bajra, moat bean, guar, or moong. So just one crop. That's it, and entirely dependent on the rains, on the monsoon. No question of no rabi crop, no winter crop. Okay. Then in 2005, he invested in a sprinkler irrigation system. Okay. Now, because you have a sprinkler irrigation system which uses water very efficiently. It's sort of it sprinkles the water. There's no flood irrigation. First of all, there's not so much of water available in that area and plus it is unnecessary. So with sprinkler irrigation, he could now grow in the Kharif season. He could grow also groundnut. Okay, whereas earlier it was only bajra, moth, guar, moong, etc. Now he could also grow groundnut in Kharif. During the Rabi season, he was now able to grow mustard, chana, and some seed spices. Especially jeera and isabgol. And even a bit of wheat, basically for self-consumption. So that was what happened. Then he told me in 2017, he invested in drip irrigation. Basically, you have those tubes around the thing, and he planted this. He got these he got these pomegranate plants, tissue culture plants, and these are all supplied by the horticulture department, with the usual 50% subsidy, etc. Okay, and he started growing these pomegranates. Okay, and this year, he expects that he will harvest something like 100 tons, about 100 tons, 100 tons in about 80 biga, which is about 32 acres of land, So, and suppose that, say 100 rupees a kg, he takes. That means, he would be selling produce worth 1 crore, 1 crore. So I was seeing a crorepati in the middle of a desert, and this was, he was an ordinary farmer, in that area, many people own, 50 acres, 60 acres, but which has no meaning. But what I'm trying to emphasize is, if you have technology, if you give farmers good seed, if you give access to water, and water which can be used very efficiently, like for example, drip irrigation, if you can do that, and if you give the farmers a price, some kind of an assured price, which should be a minimum support price. I believe, I believe that our farmers can produce a lot of. I think that would be what would be the Chaudhry Charan Singh's dream, of prosperity, going through, riding through through India's villages, So just imagine this 1 crore rupees which he earns, that will all be spent, in his village, Dechu village, So it will create so much of jobs, so much of employment, whether for construction, for anything. So that for me is the model of development. Okay, and why I am very bullish about agriculture in India. See, all of you who would have in economics, you would have studied the Lewis model, right? I mean, the Arthur Lewis model, right? And because he was this economist. I think in 1954 he wrote a very influential paper. How he said that there would be unlimited supply of labor, from agriculture. People who are rendered surplus in agriculture. And they can go to manufacturing. And there'll be a lot of jobs in manufacturing, and that is how structural transformation can happen. Whereas, let us look at the reality today. You go to any factory, you go to your mobile factory. Show me how many people are working there, and I think, more and more manufacturing is going to get automated. Okay, you will have more and more of AI. You're going to have more and more of machine learning. You're going to have more and more of robotics. So I don't think so. So probably the Lewis model was written at a time when even Bombay was a city of which was a textile city, right? I mean, so you had a lot of mills everywhere, right? There's all textiles, generating a lot of jobs, and actually they got the labor from the countryside. That was what was happening. So I don't think that route is possible in India. Okay, so I don't think we are going to see that kind of structural transformation of people moving away from agriculture to manufacturing kind of thing. That's not going to happen. And this is also borne out in the statistics. You look at the latest data. We have the periodic labor survey, labor force survey data. That's something like 45.8% of India's labor force, that is the employed labor force, is still in agriculture, right? I mean, which is huge, and in fact it is higher than what it was pre-COVID, right? It is higher than what it was pre-COVID, and this is not going to come down. So what is the way forward? So I would say that the way forward is we have to create jobs in and around agriculture. How do we, like farmer who's producing pomegranates, can there be some way in which instead of he selling, pomegranates, can there be processing facilities around it, Because we know that in the case of anar, hum to wo dana khate hain, right? We eat that, we eat that what they call as arils, right? Can there be ways in which those arils can be extracted? That can create a lot of jobs, right? In and around that particular village, right? And then in packing, packing of the produce. So I believe that this is the path for India. I mean, I mean, I'm going totally against what the Lewis model says. I'm saying that we have not explored the possibilities of what India can do in agriculture itself. And it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be on the farm. Agriculture can generate jobs outside the farm, in processing. See, like for example, what is a textile mill? Textile mill is basically using cotton fiber, right? Where is the cotton fiber coming from? Cotton fiber is coming from kapas. Who grows kapas? The farmer grows kapas. From the kapas, the kapas goes to a ginnery, right? I mean, from there the lint is separated, and then the lint goes to make yarn. Yarn goes to make fabric. Fabric goes to make whatever fashion, clothing, garmenting, etc. So I think India needs. So if I were to say anything about Viksit Bharat, I think we need to first rework our entire models, including what was there in the 5-year plans, etc. I think we should create a model, and an India model should be, a Bharat model should be around agriculture. How India can be an agriculture superpower. If IT can create revenues of of $150 billion. Why can't India be an exporting and agri export superpower? So I think this is broadly my idea of what is a Viksit Bharat. I think by 2047 we should look at agriculture. We should look at as a strength, as an asset, and not as a liability, as most economists, I'm sorry, Ritika, most economists look at agriculture as a drag sector, that it's an unnecessary, and farmers are, are subsidy guzzlers, water guzzlers. No, let's believe in our farmers, and let's borrow a little from, from Gandhiji and from Chaudhary Charan Singh. Thank you.
Mr. Harish, thank you so much for very insightful, perspectives from your visits to the field. You've, like I mentioned in the beginning, he's traveled the length and breadth of the country, and he has maybe many such similar stories to share with us. But I think the great insight from all the conversations so far coming up is that the whole idea of a Viksit Bharat needs to be looked at holistically, and maybe so many different perspectives, so many different angles. What Mr. Harish said towards the end will help us now to move to the next part, which is the most important part of the conversation, which is the meat of the conversation, is to think of solutions and think of possibilities on our respective areas. So for example, Dr. Ritika has been working in the space of healthcare and education, and it resonates with all of your thoughts also, that education health is going to play such a big role in transforming us. Even when we speak about rural development, when Mr. Harish was mentioning that technology is going to be a big enabler, we have to embrace these new innovative practices and techniques that can help us. That's not an enemy, but that will allow us to go from X to 10X maybe. And something very interesting at the center of all of it is, while we achieve this development, we have industrialization, we have growth in all different sectors. There's also a perpetual debate about what Sir mentioned in the beginning, is that should environment be looked at in this journey of Viksit Bharat, or should it be looked at from how, when we are Viksit in 2047, how the environment should be? There's a constant debate of the trade-off. All of these are very, very profound questions. They make us think. Before I move to the next part, where I'm going to request, some key solutions or things that you feel must be done, can be done, in our respective sectors to achieve this mission. I want to take a moment to quickly go to the next question also online. Please take half a minute to respond to this ASAP. If I may request the organizers for the next question. What is your understanding about rural development in India? I assume many of us would have had the chance to really go to the rural areas, see the lives of farmers, people who live in these lesser developed areas sometimes, many of us may not have. Do you think the current state of rural development in India is it underdeveloped? Is it somewhat better than underdeveloped, somewhere in between? Or we are confident that it is developing? So far, there is a slightly optimistic view in the room that the rural development in rural parts of India seems to be on a developing path. It's about 1/6 of the room feels that it's still underdeveloped. About 40% of the people feel that it is somewhat better than underdeveloped. But a significant part of the audience also feels that we are developing. I'm going to use that as a cue, and like I mentioned, we move to the next part of the conversation where we think of solutions, where we think of concrete, actionable steps, those systemic changes, those changes in our principal policies, our models, our way of thinking, when it comes to environment, to health and education, and also rural development. I would like to, invite anyone to, take charge and share anything. It doesn't have to be one after another, but more like a conversation. You want to jump in. Mr. Harish is also online, and the reason for the delay is because of a technical lag. And therefore, if we have to invite Mr. Harish to be a part of the conversation, we have to give him about 8 to 10 seconds is when he's able to, listen to us exactly what we are speaking. Really, the floor is open, and, let's bring home some hard-hitting points.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, one thing is sure, that we have to grow. So there is no denial to this fact that we have to grow. But how can we grow sustainably? So that is the main thing. Now, around 2000, former President APJ Abdul Kalam wrote a book, Vision 2020. I don't know how many of you have read that book, where he mentioned by 2020, India will be a developed country. And he gave a solution also. This is how we can be a developed country. And that solution is very, very important. Now, why Harish ji is saying that it should be agriculture-centric. And the poll says rural areas are developing. If that is the case, then why there is out-migration from rural area to urban areas? Which means it is not happening. Now, if you allow migration and rural to urban migration happens, then it will put a pressure on urban areas. And there is a concept called carrying capacity. Most of the cities in India, they are beyond their carrying capacity. So now you have to go back. You have to think, what can you do so that people do not migrate? First thing which he has rightly pointed out, industries, the food processing industries has to be developed in and around agriculture areas. That is one. Second is, which is also important, because not everyone can be engaged in that. So you have to have a small scale industries, micro units, which has to be area specific. So those have to be, and where people can migrate easily from agriculture to those industries. Because if you migrate from agriculture to services, many of these services which we think we have in mind, very fancy ideas, skilled services, transition is not going to happen. It will lead to more inequality. So they have to migrate to low-skilled manufacturing or semi-skilled manufacturing, and then eventually to service industry. So these two things you have to think, industries around those areas, and thinking that urban areas cannot absorb that many people. Now, in order to understand a little bit more about carrying capacity, first we have to think, is GDP, again coming back to the GDP, is GDP the right measure? We should go to ESDP. Some of you will be knowing that, environmentally adjusted sustainable development product. So unless we look into that, then only we can think of a solution. Yeah, I'll stop here.
Okay, so I have a lot to say, but I'll try not to bore you all even more. I think the example that Harish gave is really interesting for two reasons. One, already Vinesh has commented on, is what is GDP comprised of? We should think about that. You can get all your GDP from growing dadam, as he said, pomegranates, and other high value crops, or you can get all your GDP from industry which pollutes the environment, right? So the GDP is, it's not anything goes. We have to think about the environmental consequences and whether those things which are a part of GDP are actually improving our lives. Dadam is because it's a tasty fruit, maybe it's also nutritious. Whereas, when factories emit smoke, you may get a smartphone or a car coming out of that factory. It improves your life, but it comes at a pretty substantial cost. Some of those things also happen with dadam, right? If you, not in this example, he was using drip irrigation, but suppose they were using irrigation that depletes the groundwater level, then it's not sustainable anymore. And actually, a lot of economists would say that if you're not preserving the environment in your growth process, then it's not development, right? The very definition of development should include preservation, conservation of environmental resources. Without that, it's only growth. So we have to think about economic growth and economic development separately. Now, the other important thing about Harish's example is also the complementarity between state and market. And I think that's part of the solution, like you were asking. There is a role both for the state and for the market in almost every sphere of our life, whether it is agriculture or industry or things that I care about, which is health and education. In his example, I don't know if you caught on to it, but he said the saplings and some other know-how was provided by the state government or whatever, some department of the government. And also maybe some loan is provided so that he can install or she, I don't know whether the farmer was a he or she, can install irrigation facilities because they may not have the initial investment amount. And then you have, at the selling stage, you need a market, and even in accessing the market, the state can be helpful, maybe in providing an assured return through the minimum support price, but also just by setting up mandis where people can come and buy their produce. So I think this is very important because we tend to either become what is it called, market mania or market phobia. Some people think, oh my God, the market is terrible and we have to keep the market out of everything. Some people think, no, the market is great and the market will, solve everything. But actually there is scope for both things, and we should recognize the role of the state and the market in these different spheres of economic activity. The other solution kind of thing that I do want to mention, and I'm laughing already because it's something people hate, which is taxation. I think we need to be doing very much more on direct taxation. And by direct taxation, I'm especially talking of income tax, but also things like property taxes. India is raising only 0.1 or 0.2% of GDP through property taxes, whereas the norm, the average for developing countries, I'm not talking about rich countries, for developing countries, the average is 2%. Even I own a small property and I'm shocked at how low the tax is. I pay 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rupees a year. I live in a place that has street lighting, it has roads, it has water connection through a pipe to my house, it has a sewage line connected to take away all my sewage. Who is providing all this? Yeah, so a lot of people who pay income taxes, they feel, oh, all the money is going for Narega and PDS, and we are not getting anything. Actually, in India, only 10%, 12% of the urban population has access to piped sewage facilities that take away your, basically, I'm not going to be impolite and say it, but you know what? Imagine if you didn't have that in your homes and how awful your lives would be. So you have to learn to see and value And then you have to be ready to pay for those services. And actually, the third thing which father talked about is to have compassion and empathy for, there are people who were not so lucky to be born in a family as mine, where there was no question in my mother's or father's head that you have to do at least a BA degree. But it is not the norm for everyone still, especially girls. It is not the norm. I met during my fieldwork 20 years ago, the zamana has changed, thankfully, for the better. I met a girl in Bhara. She was a Dalit girl, and her parents were going to take her out of school after class 5 because they said there isn't a school here in my village. And I don't know if you've been to Bhara side, there's Dhoras, no? And then they all live in their dhanis. So if you have to send a class 5 girl to a school that is far away, they were scared for her safety, right? And she was going to lose the opportunity to study. And it was very embarrassing. It was my first experience of inequality, because in my household survey, I was asking, "Aap kitna padhe hai? Aap kitna padhe hai?" And then somebody one day asked me, "Aap kitna padhe hai?" And these people were often saying 0 years, because many, this is 20 years ago, many were saying 0, nahi to zyada se zyada 5वीं 8वीं tak padhe hue the. And I had to count, mera to 21 saal, I was doing my PhD, and I felt really ashamed. So we have to be compassionate, empathetic to those who are less lucky, and to understand that when we pay our taxes, it improves our lives, of course, but it also allows the state to do more redistributive programs that would share the fruits of this GDP growth more equitably.
Thank you so much. I think it makes so much sense that people with different privileges, people with different accesses can all coexist into a society and economy that's, like you rightly said, where the fruits are shared with everyone, and all of us have access to equal opportunities, equal infrastructure provided by the state. We have another 10 to 15 minutes left, and I would like to invite Dr. Harish, and we also want to pop up one last question for the audience. If you can go back to your devices and quickly help us, know what you think of that. And the last 10 minutes of the conversation, after Mr. Harish's response to, what are some actionable solutions we can think of, we're going to open the floor and get some questions from the audience also. The next question is, sure, we'll just take a minute to get responses for this next question. Then we invite Mr. Harish's response, and then we take 2 or 3 questions from the audience. The next question is, rank your preferences which can lead us to become Viksit Bharat. So this is a ranking based question, 5 options: growth in industrial development, strong agriculture sector, entrepreneurship, high income jobs,
Hello.
greater urbanization.
Hello.
So you could choose which is the most important for you, and then go further with rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I encourage more people to respond to this question. It's an important one, and I see there are less number of responses, so the results that we see may not be fully representative of this room. So far, entrepreneurship and industrial development seem to be the pick for many of you. So we have about 30 plus responses so far, and we have another 20-25 seconds. And in fact, since we are live and Mr. Harish can listen to us, so please feel free to join us anytime as you hear us. And by then, the poll would also be over.
Yeah. Hello.
So most people seem to believe that entrepreneurship growth and industrial development is going to be a primary factor to help us become Viksit Bharat. That I think.
Shall I speak?
Absolutely, sir. Please, please.
Shall I speak now? Yeah. Shall I speak now?
So if you can hear us and see us, so please go ahead.
Yeah. Can I speak now? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to give one statistic, which according to me is very revealing. You take India's top 5 IT companies, okay? TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, and Tech Mahindra. You know how many people these 5 companies employ? These 5 companies together employ 16 lakh people, okay? 1.6 million people. Now, that 16 lakh is more than what Indian Railways employs. I think Indian Railways is the last number is about 12.5 lakh. Okay, and all our 3 defense services, Army, Air Force, and Navy, all together, all the 3 together employ 14 lakh people. Okay, 14 lakh people in your defense services, 12.5 lakh in railways, and as I said, 16 lakh people in just these 5 top IT companies. Okay, and the 16 lakh is now. Okay, in pre-COVID, do you know how many do you know how many people these 5 companies employed? 11.5 lakh people. So that means these companies generated an extra 4.5 lakh jobs, okay, post-COVID. And this is a period when almost all other sectors, manufacturing, and we know about tourism. Many of our industries, went totally fut, right? During that period, the IT sector generated 4.5 lakh jobs. Okay, but who would have? I mean, but these 16 lakh jobs. Now, who can work as can everybody be a software programmer? Can everybody write code, right? So we should know what kind of jobs which we are creating. It's a good thing that in the IT industry we are creating jobs, but that's not going to solve India's employment problem, right? I mean, India has an employment problem which has to do with the fact that there aren't enough jobs for kids who are coming out of, say, who are passing class 10, class 12, or even who are, say, raw graduates, right? I mean, without any this thing. So I think the countries which did well, like for example, whether it is China during the 70s, 80s, 90s, till the 2000s, or before that, Korea, Japan, etc. They created a lot of jobs for people with basic skills, right? And they ensured that there was enough investment in their education, basic skills. I mean, exactly what Ritika talked about, primary education, and probably these are all state funded. Okay, so we need to create jobs in that sector. So now we have a scenario where the IT sector is booming, right? I mean, and now with all AI and all these new technologies coming, I think the employment in this in these sectors is going to boom. It is going to continue because unless, of course, you may have new kinds of AI which might even replace, say, basic software programming, etc. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So the fact is, today, as I said, there are more jobs in IT sector than in even railways or in the defense services. And who are the people who are going to railways or the army? It was all our rural youth, right? हमारे ये जवान कौन है? जवान तो किसान के बेटे ही तो है ना? एंड अब जो है वो किसान का बेटा तो अग्निवीर बना दिया, है ना? So I think we need to think a long term on what our priorities are. Do we need to, pour so much of subsidies, for investment in, say, semiconductor plants, which are not going to create any jobs? If you go to any, I've seen a foundry in Malaysia. Okay? It's all entirely automated. It's not going to generate any jobs. It's fine. It is good that India should produce semiconductors, because so that he has a strategic, something like, in India should produce enough of say, we should have a defense industry, for our strategic purposes. But if you think that this is going to create jobs, no, it's not going to do. It's not going to happen. And ultimately, I come to the same point that IT, we have an advantage. Okay? Agriculture, we have an advantage. If we take the advantages of this and simultaneously we invest in health, in education, and we think in terms of the girl and boy who is passing out of class 10, unke liye kya hai? How do we create jobs for them? I think then that is a way we can, we can convert this, whatever. I think Dr. Katuria also talked about, a demographic. No, I think it was the opening speaker who talked about the demographic dividend, right? I mean, we need to write that demographic dividend, which all countries have harnessed, right? I mean, Japan harnessed the demographic dividend during the 50s and 60s. Korea, Taiwan, etc. did in the 70s and 80s. China did in the 90s, 2000s and 2010s. India should not go down as the only country which did not harness the demographic dividend. And if that happens, I think we'll have only our policy makers to blame. And it'll be a very sad day to see young girls and young boys. And one thing that I've seen, when I go to rural areas, is the aspirations has increased, awareness has increased. But if those kids don't get jobs, I can tell you we are going to see very serious problems, down the line. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harish. I think one thing I must commend that, despite the technical challenges, despite, him being unwell and not able to join us on this conversation, the enthusiasm, the passion, the spirit that he brings and the insight that he has brought in today, we really want to congratulate him and thank you, be grateful for his presence here. As you can see, that some of the remarks on the screen are, and this is for both our speakers, this is what the audience has been responding to, that what are the big challenges or hurdles that could be there for us in achieving. So it's on the spectrum, so many different challenges people feel, politics, population, the culture, so many things. And, we want to keep this conversation going on, but unfortunately, we have limited time, and I want to use this opportunity to, have a couple of closing remarks of all our speakers, especially you who have joined us on stage here, because, that technically it's just easier. If you were to help us, if we were to walk out of this room and, go and have this conversation with our family member, or, maybe our shopkeeper, or maybe the person who's working with us, and like half the room did not know about Viksit Bharat. Even some of us also had very little information. But after this conversation, when we walk out, if we were to help them visualize, or imagine India in 2047 as a developed nation, where there is equality, where there is access, where we have a more sustainable environment, what we have done in the next 20, 30 years will allow us to live better. How would that India look like? It's a free imagination, but some of these guys, some of these people would be shaping those things today to make that a reality. But in your opinion, can you help us visualize? And that for us would be also the closing remark, because we want to walk out of this room, filled with ideas, possibilities, mindful challenges that can stop us? And I leave it to both of you.
Okay, so I think one is preserving our democracy. I think that's very important. And actually that comment I made at the beginning that I used to be a good girl, always obeying, now I'm a dissenter. You know, if you criticize and if you express your dissent, it's very good for democracy. It's a very healthy thing. It is the only way we will thrive. If we don't discuss our problems, we will not go anywhere. So we should not be shy, number one. 7, 8 years ago, Live Mint asked me to publish your wishes for 10 years down the line. And actually, I'm a bit shy about it, but it's quite a nice list. The last item on that list is related, you know, you're saying, what would you like it to be like? And I had said that one of the things that I would like is, you know, if you go to the Schengen countries, you get a single visa for 7, 8, 10, whatever, 30 countries that are part of that. So I had at that time said that one of the things I would like is to have something like a Schengen agreement for India, Pakistan, China, Nepal, with our neighbors. And I think that's even more relevant today because our relationships don't seem to be improving when actually many of us are very similar. Like it's easier for me to talk to someone in Pakistan than it is for me to talk to someone in Tamil Nadu because actually we speak the same language, we eat the same food, but contact with people has become. So, you know, I think we have to think beyond these economic parameters. That's why this was the last item on my wish list. And then the other which relates to what we have been discussing about is that our GDP, you know, should comprise of good things like good education, good health, because in developed countries, the government's share of the GDP is 40 to 60%. You know, that's the only 40, in the Scandinavian countries, for instance, the state is very big. Its presence is mainly, of course, in sectors like health and education, but they do other things, public transport, those kinds of things we should also think about. And I think the last thing I would, which is a repetition of what I said, be proud to pay taxes. This is one of the things that this government is also trying to advertise once in a while, the income tax department. And on this, I'm 100% with the government. Don't cheat on your taxes. Be a proud taxpayer because that will improve your life. It will improve the life of our country. So if you want to be patriotic or nationalistic, whatever, you pick one of those two, read up on the differences between those two, but both paying taxes will help you be both.
Dr. Vinesh.
Yeah, thank you very much. Apart from what Ritika has said, I would like to be in 2047 when we have more equality. And the example which she is quoting, Scandinavian countries are one of the most equal societies in the world. How they have done it, can we learn from them? That is one thing we should see. Second thing is, though we always talk about sustainability, it shouldn't be weak sustainability, it should be strong. And you are economics graduate, so you should see what strong sustainability is. So that is a challenge. Because as of now, we always think that we can spoil our land, water, and we can come up with technological solution. But no, there is a threshold beyond which system will trip. So we have to go for a strong sustainability. And third thing which we have not discussed so far, coming up with your entrepreneurship as the key thing, we need policy certainty. As of now, that is missing. I'll give you one simple example. 2010, whichever government was there at the center, they were talking of biomass. 11, 12, 13, 14, they started talking about wind. This government came in center, they started talking of solar. 2015, 16, 17, 18, they started talking of EV. Now they talk about green hydrogen. Now, if I am a buyer, if I am an investor, I'm confused. Now, with this confusion, I cannot reach a state of developed country. So we need more certainty in the policy. Whichever the policy could be bad or good, the outcome will come little later. But you have to be very clear that this is the policy we are going to follow in next 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I'm just waiting for Yash to give me a heads up. I think we'll probably move ahead. Great. Uh, this brings us to the end of the conversation, but like I mentioned in the beginning, this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation of which all of us are part of. More importantly, all of you, because, rightly said, the future is with most of you. You're going to shape things.
Vision of India for 1947 is, can we create enough jobs for kids coming out of class 10, if we are able to create jobs for kids coming out of class 10 so that they don't need to go, unnecessarily, study, class 12, then do a BA, do an MA, and, so if we can create sustainable jobs for people who, for sustainable jobs for kids coming out of just, class 10, and so that only those interested in studying, need to go to college, and I think that is the way we should be doing, So according to me, those jobs can be created only in agro processing, and things like, handicrafts, even things like, for example, paramedical, nursing, healthcare. I think these are the kind of jobs, So I think number one we have to address is the job crisis, is the job challenge, because clearly, IT sector, etc., cannot deliver those jobs, because we need to know for whom these jobs are being created, So I would look at, for me, my ideal of 2047 is that what is there for the girl who has passed out of class 10, Is there a future for her? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. With that, we have enough food for thought, and I want to thank all the speakers who joined us to, make us feel curious, give us so many different perspectives, start thinking about the idea of Viksit Bharat very differently. Please take these conversations back to wherever you have, your friends, your colleagues at your homes. This is just a very early stage, but we have a very promising future, and I want to thank the Department of Economics, Yash, all the people who were involved in this festival, in this conclave, and also Father for inviting us. I hope we were able to wrap it up on time. Thank you for your patience. You've been very kind. I wish we had more time, but I'm certain that we'll have more opportunities to keep this conversation going. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, speakers and moderators, sir, for those very profound conversations that enriched our perspectives on the future of India. Please raise a warm applause, everyone. One of the most engaging events in Synergy was Inquesta, which was conducted today in the morning. It was a quiz event specially designed for the school students. It tested the knowledge of participants in the field of economics, entrepreneurship, and cinema.
Drum rolls, please. With great excitement, we would like to announce the winners of Inquesta. It had been truly a mind-boggling event. I request all the dignitaries to felicitate the winners. Kindly come up on the stage. The runner-up position is backed by the Team C, St. Xavier School C scheme. The team comprises Sabhya Patni, Rijul Jain, Raghav Jain, and Yashasvi Kabra.
And the first position is backed by Team B, Springdale School. The team comprises Aditya Bharadwaj, Akshya, Tanishk Gupta, Porvi Chaudhary. Congratulations to these teams for being remarkable competitors. Thank you.
To propose the vote of thanks, I would like to invite the Head of Department, Mrs. Purvi Medatwal, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude and appreciation, tasked with the pleasant duty of delivering the vote of thanks for Synergy Conclave. It has been a learning and a memorable occasion, and I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all those who have made it possible. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our management, Reverend Father Dr. Arokya Swami, Manager, for providing unwavering support for this event. I would also like to express my gratitude to Professor Father S. Xavier, Principal, for not only providing us with a platform, but also for supporting the execution of intellectual ideas. His commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this event is error-free is greatly appreciated. To Reverend Father Raymond Kerubin, Vice Principal, for providing all the logistics, and Reverend Father Pradeep Indwar for all the resources, and Reverend Father Amal Das for guiding throughout the event. We would also like to thank our speakers, Professor Ritika Khera, Professor Vinish Kumar Kathuria, Mr. Harish Damodaran, for taking out time from their busy schedule and accepting our invitation. I would also like to thank our esteemed moderator, Mr. Ajit Sharma, for agreeing to lead the session with just one call. Your contribution has been instrumental in making this event a success. I would also like to thank my pillars, Mr. Yashwardhan Sir, Ms. Sunita Chaudhary, Ms. Anisha Sharma, for their coordinated work with the utmost perfection. I also want to thank my student body led by ECOSOC President Anya Sharma and Vice President Hari Shankar for all the hard work they've put in for making this event a great success. I hope this has been a great learning experience for you all. I would also like to thank the MCs, photographer, all the volunteers, the technical team led by Mr. Rajiv Sir, Ms. Janet Ma'am, and all our Didis and Bhaiyas who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that every aspect of this event ran smoothly. I also want to thank the participants from all the schools and colleges for participating in the events. Your active engagement and enthusiasm contributed to this lively atmosphere and meaningful discussions throughout the event. Thank you everyone who has been part of this remarkable event. We look forward to your continued support and hope to see you at our future endeavors. We would also like to thank our technical team for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We wholeheartedly thank all the attendees for taking out their precious time and being a part of the Synergy Conclave. Now, may I please request you all to stand up for the national anthem.